Welcome back. You're still watching Business Morning on Channels Television, and we're broadcasting live from Lagos. On the program today, we're talking about the 2014 budget and issues that have actually been raised by members of the Senate and House of Representatives. We know that the bill has actually passed through to second reading, but at the House of Representatives, it's suffered a setback as they've asked a six-man advisory committee to actually look at some issues that were raised by two members of the House of Representatives as regards the contents of the budget. And so they're going to be doing that, and we'll get back to the House to report their findings. And discussing these issues with me, I have here with me in the studio here in Lagos, an economic analyst and the Chief Executive Officer of Carry Assets Management, Johnson Chukwu. Thank you so much for staying with us. And from our Abuja studio, Eze Onyekpere. He's a fiscal strategy analyst and a lawyer. He's also been part of this conversation. Thank you so much, Mr. Onyekpere, for staying around.
Thank you.
Well, Mr. Onyekpere, I'll start with you just before I continue my conversation here with Mr. Chukwu. With the trends and development we're noticing now at the National Assembly, it seems that this budget might not get approval anytime soon. Or do you share a contrary view?
Sorry, I didn't quite get the last part.
With the trends we're seeing right now at the House of Representatives and the Senate, of course, does it seem like this budget is going to get passed? It's going to be passed anytime soon?
Well, from the way the House and the Senate are going, particularly the House, I do not see the budget being passed before the end of the first quarter. And that's why I made mention in my early part of the submission about consultation. This has become the yearly ritual. You submit a budget late, and the National Assembly will take its time, 2-3 months, and before they finish, maybe you have the rains, as my colleague talked about, and all those outdoor constructions, nobody is going to do them until maybe much later in the year, and before you know it, funds are being called back to the Treasury. If the process started early, the hope of it being passed early would have been there, but I don't see the budget being passed before the end of the first quarter, particularly when you take cognizance of the fact of the politics that has also been introduced into the picture, which is beyond the legal and governance issues that should have actually guided the approval of the budget. So it will take a while, but I think also we need to put pressure from the general public, from civil society, from professionals, from everybody to tell the National Assembly to quicken up the pace of the work, because it's in nobody's interest if the budget is delayed beyond reason.
Well, thank you, Mr. Onyekpere. So we're like going towards home stretch now. A lot of, conversations has been that there should be more consultations on how aspects of the budget are put together. And then we know that the federal government has come up with GIFMIS to ensure that it helps in accurate budgeting process. This was sometime last year. But then again, is this all that we need to be doing right now? Apart from widely consulting, what should key players be looking at in terms of when to put the budget together and how to ensure that all of this, what we're noticing right now, doesn't continue to play out?
Well, I think that the challenge we have is that not necessarily the issue of consultation. The challenge we have is that the political structure in the country has changed drastically. That today you now have almost two equal parties, and that the opposition party has a mandate from their leadership to frustrate the budget. In as much as I subscribe fully to the issue of accountability, issue of the ministers coming to surrender regular reports on their performance, issue of drawing up their cash budget and the expenditure budget and the rest, and rendering returns on what they are doing, I think the issue we have today is it's more a political issue, and not necessarily the structure of the budget from development. You see, if you look at the issues, the issues being raised this year have always been there. That is not an excuse that they shouldn't be addressed. But I'm saying that it's not sufficient reason to shut down the federal government. Because the budget is meant to address the social and economic needs of the citizens, for who the two parties are supposed to be protecting their interests. So if we talk of the issue of consultation, I think we are actually preparing over the substance of the matter. The issues we have today are pure political. The guy who objected to who raised the issue of the structure of how the budget was presented, he was formerly in PDP and decammed to APC only about 3 weeks ago. And imagine if he was still in PDP, he would have raised that issue. So the key thing is this: the two parties must have an overriding national interest as the primary objective of their whatever they are doing. And once they have that, then they will differentiate what is purely political consideration and what affects the interests of the majority of Nigerians. And I think that's what we should be looking at. I'm not saying that we shouldn't do consultation. The issue of budget preparation, if you look at the fiscal responsibility bill, should actually start somewhere earlier than about 6 months to the end of a current budget. And then the budget should get to National Assembly sometime in September, October, so that they have enough time to pass it. Of course, those 3 are not done. But I'm saying that, look, because we have overriding national interests to address the social infrastructure and economic needs of Nigerians, the National Assembly should consider the interests of Nigerians and pass the budget so that we have some window, a little window, to implement as much as they could do. Because at the end of the day, very soon we'll be talking of what's the level of implementation. And we're talking of maybe 30%, 20% implementation. If the budget comes out in June, during the rainy season, most of the capital expenditure budget will not be implemented. And then who suffers? Nigerians.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Johnson Chukwu, for sharing your thoughts with us this morning on the program. It's been an interesting conversation, albeit you came in a little late, but thank you for coming.
My pleasure, and my apologies.
Well, thank you. Well, I've been speaking with Johnson Chukwu, who's an economic analyst and managing director, CEO of Kari Assets Management Limited, and we'll be taking a look at that issue. Of course, we've also had our guest live from our studios in Abuja, Eze Onyekwere. He's a fiscal strategy analyst and also a lawyer, contributing as well to this conversation. Thank you so much, Mr. Onyekwere, for joining us this morning on the program. Well, I'm being told that we're being joined on the program by our correspondent Temple Ashaju, who is the trading floor, that's the Nigerian Stock Exchange, and right there on the trading floor to give us an update on what's happening at the moment. Hello, Temple, and thank you so much for joining us on the program. It's slightly 2 hours into trade at the equities market. What can you tell me about the mood right now?
The market is still a little bit bearish, Harriet. We saw the market capitalization dropping a while ago back to 12.99 trillion naira, and that also left the all share index at 41,089.96 points. Now we see some of the penny stocks losing their pace of gains. They're losing prices. Talking about Fitsin, Pharmadeco, and Transnationwide Express. But in terms of gainers, some of the oil sector firms are still moving upwards, talking about Oando and Forte Oil. But then stockbrokers are just being optimistic, saying that they hope the markets will go bullish eventually before the end of the day.
So are we expecting the bearish trend that we noticed yesterday to continue today? Because on Monday, we saw the market actually close almost 2% higher in positive territory. But yesterday, the market gave up those gains and dropped to 0.73. That's dropped about 0.73%, that is. So do we expect to see that bearish trend continue today? Or do we expect to see a kind of burst of investor activity in some of those highly capitalized stocks to actually push the all-share index and the market capitalization back into positive territory?
The mood right now is such that people, investors and brokers generally who play well in the markets will be surprised to see any upward push in the market indicators. Reason being that yesterday, 4th of February, was when the cash reserve policy ratio increased to 75% took place in the economy. And so the impact of that is still being felt on the market. It is believed that some of the banks who actually play really well in the market have sold off some of their stakes in the market, in the stock market, just to reserve some, to cushion the effect of this cash reserve ratio in their own sector, which is the banking sector. So because of the lapses that we're beginning to feel in the banking sector of late, it is believed that this bearish sentiment may still go on in the market.
Well, thank you so much, Temple, for joining us on the program and giving us the latest on what's happening at the market.
Thank you too, Harriet.
Oh, we'll hope to get more on those numbers subsequently in the course of the day as trading goes on. But that's the program for the moment. Thank you for watching. I'm Harriet Agbinyi.